How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Falcon's Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Today is going to be a different type of video today, in which today is going to be my review on something completely different here, in which for this review is going to be my review on a TV series which came out in the beginning of this year, 2023, in which this came out in the beginning of this year, which was January, and I never saw it straight away when this show came out, but I just recently started checking out this show for the very first time, and today I'm going to be reviewing the first episode of the show. And if you don't know what kind of show it is, it's basically a post-apocalyptic drama series that's based off the famous 2013 video game of the same name by Naughty Dog. And as you guys can tell from the title of the video of what TV show I'm reviewing today, of course I'm here to review The Last of Us. So The Last of Us, this TV series is based off the famous 2013 video game, which was made by Naughty Dog. And this series was created by Craig Mazin, who you may know him as the creator of Chernobyl, which is an amazing yet fantastic miniseries of the last decade. It is truly one I really recommend if you've never seen before. And this is also co-created by Neil Druckmann, who is the man behind the two of The Last of Us video games, the first game and part 2. And this episode was directed by Craig Mazin, and in this episode, basically in 2003, a parasitic fungus ravages the planet by turning humans into violent predators known as the infected. And so 20 years later, we follow a hardened survivor named Joel, played by Pedro Pascal, whom he is hired by a group of rebellious freedom fighters to smuggle a 14-year-old girl named Ellie, played by Ramsay, out of an oppressive quarantine zone. And what should have been a quick job soon becomes a brutal and heartbreaking journey across a post-apocalyptic US where no one can protect Joel and Ellie but each other. So that's pretty much the story of episode 1 of The Last of Us. Now, when it comes to video game adaptations, they can either be hit or miss in terms of like whatever is getting made for either the big screen or the small screen. Like, I've seen a few video game adaptations in the last few years that haven't worked out quite well. Like some of them didn't really land on my belt that much. They just kind of mostly landed under my belt. Like, I've seen Doom, which that didn't really work out that well as a video game adaptation. And I've seen the Resident Evil franchise. Well, the first movie, I think it's a decent video game adaptation, but not like a great film or anything like that. But for the sequels, I didn't really care for them that much. And I really wasn't a fan of the reboot as well. And even the Netflix series, which that just didn't really work out that well. But I've seen a few surprisingly really good video game adaptations in recent years. Like, I've seen Pokemon Detective Pikachu and the 2 Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which both of those movies I really enjoyed, but I wouldn't consider them like masterpieces of like video game adaptations to the screen or anything like that. But anyway, for The Last of Us, like for the game itself, which came out just a decade ago, I never played it when it first came out or anything like that. But once I heard like the show was about to come out that a lot of people were really anticipating for, I was like, I should give this video game a shot. So I did play the game for the very first time, and I can definitely agree with everyone. It is truly one of the best video games to ever come out of the last decade. It is truly one of my favorite video games that Naughty Dog has ever made since the Uncharted series here. But for the show itself, I never saw the show straight away when it came out or anything like that, but just recently I just started checking out the show here since I started hearing a lot more people were talking about the show here, and I was really surprised with like the people who were involved with the show, like who was creating it and who was starring in it. Like, for the creation, it was made by 2 talented people here, which were Craig Mazin, who in his early days he did like comedic stuff, but in recent years he started doing some like serious works here. Like, he created one of the best miniseries of the last decade, known as Chernobyl, and it is one of the best miniseries I've seen in the last decade. It is truly one I would really recommend you check out if you've never seen before. And you also have Neil Druckmann creating the show as well, along with Craig Mazin. And Neil Druckmann, you may know him as the creator of the two games. It's of The Last of Us, the first game and part 2. And I was surprised with the cast in the show here. Like, you've got Pedro Pascal as Joel here. And when it comes to Pedro Pascal as an actor, I think he has definitely become a wonderful actor in recent years here. Like, he's, of course, well known for being in the Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, and some really good movies and all of that. And you also have Ramsay in the show here as Ellie, which I've never seen this actress before, but I was really intrigued to see what she was going to do here for playing Ellie in the show here. And I just recently watched the first episode this morning here, and after watching the whole episode here, I can definitely say that this episode was a perfect start to a brand new video game series here. This episode was absolutely fantastic here. What I truly loved about the first episode of The Last of Us is that it manages to capture the feel of the game, as well as showcasing the overall sadness of the people who have survived this whole outbreak, and how the world feels, where the world is kind of feeling like it's in its own turmoil here, where we see these people trying to survive, but not only just that, trying to make it through the day here, even though they're kind of tired and all that. And I thought Craig Mazin did a fantastic job of showcasing all that here on the small screen, as well as like showcasing the overall production design of the show here, like everything looks overgrown, and the spray painted symbols of the fireflies, and the costume design, which all that here was also fantastic here. And I also loved how Mazin fleshed out the characterization of Joel and Ellie so perfectly here. Like, we do learn a little bit about Joel in the show here. Like, we do see a bit of his home life with his daughter Sarah and his brother Tommy, before we all know in the game that Joel went through a heartbreaking tragedy with his daughter Sarah, which is still really gut-wrenching and all that. And this episode mostly focuses about him, which I really loved. But it also goes into a bit of the character of Ellie here, which I liked how this show introduces her pretty differently here than what we have seen before in the original game, and I thought Mazin did a fantastic job of showcasing that here as well. And as for the two lead performances here, like Pedro Pascal as Joel, he was absolutely wonderful here, and he just really embodied the character so perfectly here. And Bella Ramsay as Ellie was excellent here, and she really embodied the character of Ellie so perfectly here. And everyone else, they all gave really great performances here in this episode here. And the direction by Mazin as well was so good here. Like, it's mostly handheld and all that, which sometimes I'm not really a fan of like handheld like camera works and all that, but I loved how Mazin used the camera work here for this episode here, where it gives a bit of like fear and tension, all that, where we see like these zombies here, and I thought he did a fantastic job of showcasing all that here in this episode here, as well as like showcasing the effects, the visuals and all that, and the music score and the sound mixing, which all that here was so blended in, well done here. And it's also well paced as well and all that, since this episode is only an hour and 20 minutes here, and there was never a moment where it tends to drag on or slow down or anything like that. And I also liked how this episode depicts the character of Joel here, where we see him trying to survive here and all that, even though there's some things he has to do here that's just kind of bad and all that. And I loved how Mazin really showcased that as well here on the screen as well. And there's not even a single nitpick I can pick out with this episode here, because this episode is truly a perfect start to a brand new series series here. And if you are a massive fan of The Last of Us video game or anything like that, or you're a fan of like the cast, like Pedro Pascal or Bella Ramsay, or if you're a fan of like Craig Mazin since Chernobyl or anything like that, you truly have to give this show a shot here. So that's pretty much all I have to say about episode 1 of The Last of Us. I'm going to give The Last of Us episode 1 5 out of 5. Yep, like I said, not a single flaw I could pick out with this episode here. This was indeed a perfect start to a brand new series here that's based off a video game here. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching for my review of The Last of Us episode 1, and let me know what you think of this episode if you have seen this already, or if you just recently checked out this episode. Did you absolutely love it, or did you really hate this episode? Stay tuned for my reviews of the upcoming episodes of The Last of Us, and as always, this has been Falcon's Media Corner signing off.